fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren. Heard on KCAA 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
Okay, thank you for joining us, and we have Rosemary Ellen Guiley, and thank you for joining us on the show.
Well, you're very welcome, Al. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm delighted to talk about some subjects that are forefront in a lot of the spiritual work being done today.
Just in case there's somebody out there that doesn't know who you are, let's start with a little bit of your background.
I've been doing work in the paranormal and metaphysical fields, and that includes cryptozoology and ufology as well. All of these things are interrelated. For full-time now, for more than 30 years. I started full-time in my career as a writer, researcher, and investigator in 1983. But it's really been a lifelong pursuit for me. Like a lot of people who get deeply involved in these areas, I had experiences when I was younger that really fueled my curiosity about what's out there in these unseen realms and how we make contact with entities, with God, with high-level beings, and how we even have contact on the dark side, too, because many people have problem experiences. So over the course of time, my work has really gone on both sides of the fence, the light and the dark. And I'm involved in helping people sort through and integrate their experiences, deepen their spiritual path. And on the other side of the coin, I'm involved in helping people resolve very troubling experiences. It's been very rewarding work, and I spend a lot of time in the field investigating, and then I provide one-on-one services to clients. I do readings, I do past life regressions. I'm constantly on the move, and it's just never a dull day, Al.
It sounds like it. Now, would you also have to have a little bit of psychology in the background when you're dealing with people, especially one-on-ones, and that are having a lot of issues? Is it really hard to tell the difference or pick out when someone's being haunted, let's say?
You do have to be part psychologist and sometimes even part counselor in some of these cases, yes. And one of the first things that needs to be done is to try and rule out natural causes as much as possible, because sometimes people can project just normal situations onto a supernatural explanation. You know, they want to blame spirits for their difficulties. My background is in communications. I graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in journalism. I've always wanted to be a writer, but along the way I've taken many courses in psych, and especially Jungian psychology. Very important to understand that. I've also studied history, mythology, anthropology, parapsychology, occultism, and metaphysics, all the related disciplines that are important to the work that I do. And sometimes I will refer people to get medical help. And I don't make like specific referrals, but I tell them that it would be best if they took their situation to, for example, like a licensed therapist or something like that to help them resolve some underlying issues first before they jump to a supernatural explanation.
Let's talk about dreams. So what happens when we go to sleep?
Well, we dream in approximately 90-minute cycles, whether we remember dreams or not. And many people think that because they don't remember their dreams, they're not dreaming. But in fact, it has been scientifically demonstrated that we do dream. The only individuals who may not have dreams are certain persons who've had, serious head trauma. And so some of us have an easy time remembering, some of us don't. Sometimes it goes up and down throughout life. But we have these experiences in an alternate reality, and that's what the dream world is. And the ancients knew this as a bridge to the gods, that dreams were a place to go, where a person could have contact with the dead and contact with the gods that would be very difficult or even impossible in waking consciousness. Our dreams bring up material from our subconscious, things that we're concerned about, things that we're working through. They really are a mirror of truth that reflects back to us how we feel we're doing in life, situations that need to be resolved and balanced out, like issues we're ignoring. They can give us unfailing guidance when we have important turning points in life and we need to make significant decisions. We can be healed in our dreams. We can see the future. We can have direct contact with the divine. We can have meetings with angels and spiritual masters and guides. Our dreams are such a rich land of exploration whenever we go to sleep. It's absolutely fantastic. And the more we pay attention to our dreams, the more they talk to us and the more information they give us.
So what should a person do to remember the dreams? Like, what do you suggest?
There are a number of techniques that work for many people. Sometimes you just have to experiment a bit until you hit on the one that works for you. Simply paying attention to your dreams and asking yourself to remember, or telling yourself to remember your dreams, will work wonders for many people. It's like turning a spotlight on them. And so if we set an intention before we go to bed, I will remember my dreams when I wake up. I will record them and understand them. The dreaming mind is very responsive to that. If someone has not been in the habit of doing that, it may take a little while for momentum to get going. But that helps. Sometimes people find that if they lie very still when they wake up, because dreams disappear almost as soon as we come into waking consciousness, they're not impressed in long-term memory unless we impress them into memory. So sometimes being very still, not jumping up out of bed, but just collecting yourself for a few moments to go back over whatever you can recall, even if it's just a tiny bit, that also will help, and that can build over time. Then there are visualization techniques that people try. There's one where you can place, imagine a light at the base of your throat, and the throat chakra is metaphysically the voice that you speak your truth with, the voice of who you are. And you envision a light and a lot of energy at the base of your throat and combine that with instructions to remember your dreams. Sometimes herbal teas will help, herbs that have been used throughout history that facilitate dream recall. They don't do anything in the brain to make you remember your dream, but some of them can enhance dream imagery, and more vivid imagery is often easier for people to remember. Mugwort, St. John's wort, chamomile, skullcap, catnip, these have all been used with success by many people. So those are just a few tips. And I do have a number of dream books out. My new one is Dream Work for Visionary Living, and I talk about some of those things in the book, ways to coax more information out of the dream and also enhance the ability to remember dreams.
Now, what about shared dreams?
We do have them, and we probably have more than we realize, because most of us don't talk about our dreams most of the time. And when we do, we discover that we're sharing the dream landscape with all kinds of people, usually people we're connected to emotionally. There's something about all of these experiences, psychic experiences, contact experiences, otherworldly and other dimensional experiences, where emotion seems to be the energy that they run on. And so when we have emotional connections to things, places, events, and people, those are often, they often become factors in our extraordinary experiences. So a shared dream has different levels, ranging from what you would call a full-blown shared dream, where you and the other person share exactly the same dream on the same occasion. You are both lucid in the dream, you recognize each other in the dream, and you work together to act out in the dream. Then it goes on down the line. All of those elements can be present or missing. You might have the same dream on the same night but not see each other in it. You might have the same theme of a dream. There might be some elements in the dream that are the same. The list can go way, way down to just even sharing a very small detail. But the important thing is that we are connected through our dreams. Dream researchers have written and given a great deal of thought to the importance of this. And I do believe that it is part of our global consciousness. It's the connection that all human beings share throughout all of time. We contribute to our collective experience through our waking endeavors and through our dreaming as well. And the dreaming, the shared dreaming, goes into some, very deep territory that we really haven't explored enough. There are some cultures who pay attention to this, where dreams might be shared among a family or a community and discussed, because it's understood that this is something that connects people. And in our culture today, we tend to be more isolated about dreams. We consider them private property. That you have a dream, you don't experience a dream. When it's really, we are experiencing dreams, and yes, they do have intensely personal content. The universe does speak directly to us in many ways, but we also have this shared content as well.
When we have a shared dream with someone, does it have to be someone we know or someone we're related to?
Well, not necessarily. There are incidences of psychic dreams, for example, where people are connected to other individuals through circumstances that they don't really understand. And if you keep in mind that we are all interconnected in some way, we could share the dream landscape with someone that might not be familiar to us. But more than likely, our dreams are going to revolve around our close emotional connections.
I was talking to someone that said they had a dream. They were dreaming of someone, and they ended up meeting them.
Well, that's yes, it's a type of precognition, and we have precognitions in our dreams all the time. And here again, we've got kind of a skewed view of precognitive dreams, because the media makes a big deal out of famous dreams, previews of big disasters and important people dying and things like that, when actually, on a daily basis, all of us are looking into the future through our dreams all the time. And dreams go beyond linear time. It is not uncommon to preview something that you're going to be doing in the next day, the next few days, maybe even in the coming weeks, or someone you're going to meet. Some years ago, I did a book on soulmates, and I found quite a few people who had actually dreamed of their future partners who they had never met, sometimes way in advance. It's as though the dream is preparing someone for an important occurrence in life.
So you think there's a real spiritual side to the dreams then?
I do, and I always have believed that since I was very young. Most of my work focuses on the spiritual dimensions of dreams. How do we get the content out of them, the meaning out of them that nourishes our spiritual side, our spiritual journey, the meaning of life, the path that we're on, the choices that we make? How can we be more creative? How can we heal through dreams? And these sorts of things have been well documented throughout history. Dreams are incredibly powerful, yet a lot of people don't pay attention to them because from just a cursory look, they don't make sense. But when you understand the dreams, when you get to know them a bit and understand how they speak to you, they make incredible sense.
And so when we're having nightmares, is that something we should be worried about?
Well, nightmares serve various functions, and everybody has them from time to time. They can be these expressions of anxiety, and stress. So what they do is, on that level, they are warning signals to someone, especially if a nightmare is repeating and it's the same theme, that something is out of balance in life. And depending upon what is out of balance and how well somebody is dealing with it or trying to ignore it, nightmares can even intensify until someone confronts the problem. There are other kinds of nightmares that are really related to medical conditions like post-traumatic stress, and these do need to be treated under medical care.
And so when we have these, what would be the best way to deal with that? Like if you're having nightmares, how do you select someone that you go see about dreams and nightmares?
Well, most psychologists deal in the dreams of their patients. So you can always bring dreams into a therapy situation. There are lots of resources available in the metaphysical community, too. I've worked as a dream work facilitator since the early 1990s, helping people understand their dreams. And when individuals can unlock the meaning of the dream, sometimes there's a great deal of healing energy just in that, and they're able to move forward with that. Other times they may need additional help resolving things. So if you're seeking out a therapist, it's always a good idea to get recommendations from people you know. It might take you a while to find the person that you feel is on the same wavelength with you. There are many different approaches to dream work, and some of it depends on how a therapist has been trained and how they view the dream in terms of fitting into an overall treatment. So quite a bit of variety there.
Tell us about your book, the Dream Work for Visionary Living.
It's my newest book, and I wanted like a comprehensive guidebook for people who really wanted to go into these extraordinary aspects of dreams. It's important to understand the mundane aspects because our dreams are constantly telling us about ourselves and what's going on in life. But everyone has big picture dreams. And so this goes into psychic dreaming, like the precognitive dreaming, lucid dreaming, that's where you know you're dreaming while you're dreaming, and sometimes that's accompanied by dramatic feelings of projecting out of the body. Dreams that heal, dreams can forewarn us of illness, dreams can assist us during the healing process. There are even many cases of people being healed in a dream. There are spiritual turning point dreams, and dreams can be used to incubate and enhance creativity. They can be used to make contact with spiritual beings, and we can have visits with the dead. So the book is about all of those aspects of dreams, and every chapter has what I call dream labs, and these are individual ways that you can get those kinds of meanings out of your dreams. They're incubations, rituals, suggestions, ways to look at dreams. If you want to use dreams for creativity, how would you go about it? Here are several different ways. 37 of these dream labs in the book. And it's a very nice spiritual guide to one of our most important activities, which is dreaming.
So the dead can contact us through our dreams. Is that just people we know or relatives, or can people actually contact the dead that for other people that way?
Well, when people have dream visits from the dead, it's usually someone that they know who has passed on fairly recently. And here again, these contact experiences They take place under certain conditions, and we can't say exactly what we are because we don't know. The dead say that it takes a great deal of difficulty to make that kind of bridge for a visit. And I'm talking a real visit. I'm not talking about a symbology. I'm talking about a real visit where the dead person is able to reunite very briefly with someone who's living, usually for the purpose of delivering a message. These dreams typically happen once after a person has passed on, and there are cases where they might happen more than once before these dreams become symbolic. But people will return to say farewell, to reassure the living that they're all right, don't grieve for me, to wrap up unfinished business, here's where all my financial papers are that you can't find, and sometimes to give life guidance. These have been documented throughout history, and they can't really be incubated very well. We can ask for them, but whether or not we get one of them, it just depends so much on individual circumstances. It's the perfect confluence of conditions have to come together. But even if we don't get the dream, we can incubate and ask for the dream, and then we might have some kind of contact with the dead that comes out in other ways, waking vision or synchronicity, sense of presence, a symbolic dream, something like that. This is quite common, and these dreams should not be dismissed as wish fulfillment or just part of the grieving process. They are part of the grieving process, but they are real experiences, not fantasy.
Is there a way we could actually determine the difference? Like, how do we know?
Usually the dream visits from the dead are distinctly different from ordinary dreaming, and this is one reason why it's important to pay attention to your dreams so you know what your ordinary dreaming is. But the person often does not know whether he or she is awake or asleep. They may realize that they're dreaming, but they know they're awake in the dream. Everything is very intense. There's a tactile sense. They can hug, kiss, touch the dead person. There is communication, which is telepathic. The atmosphere often feels very strange, and they awaken knowing that they have had real contact. For some people, this can be very confusing because if they share this experience and say, I was with Dad last night. He came to visit me, and I know he did. Other people might immediately dismiss it as, oh, well, that's just fantasy. It's just wish fulfillment. Even some therapists will do this, and it really takes the power out of the experience for the individual. But they are distinctly different.
Right. Now, you were talking about angels and connecting with angels, so we do that through our dreams as well? We
can, yes. There are many ways to contact angels, and I have had angel experiences most of my life, and I think we're ready for a whole new level of working with angels. In the past, we've treated them either as very remote beings that we might not have much contact with, to the other pendulum swing where we've reduced them to, fluffy little, Dear Abby kind of advisors, and brought them down too much to our level. And I think we're ready now to engage with angels in a much more powerful way. They are intermediary beings who serve between us and the divine. Sometimes contact with angels comes through dreams. And the dream might have a message, for example, for someone, and the messenger is the angel. Or an angel might be a guide figure or something, a connector, something that connects an individual to an important truth, awakening, or realization. Many of these dreams happen spontaneously. It is much easier to incubate an angel dream because they're readily available to us.
And so what can we get from connecting with an angel?
Oh, anything from spiritual reassurance. Some people just need to feel unconditional love, and An angel experience might happen at a time in life when people need to have some reaffirmation of self-worth. Angels can be instruments of healing. I have cases where people were very critically ill and had a healing dream where the angel administered the healing, and they were physically healed. They might get an answer to a question. They might get guidance for decision-making. Could be a lot of different things.
So what exactly are angels?
They are intermediaries who serve between us and the divine, and they have no physical form. They are beings of light. They are at a much different vibration rate than we are, and yet they can appear in some cases as they're called mysterious strangers. They can appear in human form, and that's been documented since biblical time. But by and large, they are beings of light, and their purpose, one of their purposes, is to hold the vibration of unconditional love that streams out from the Godhead. And this is an organizing force in the universe that angels administer. Angels are the caretakers of everything in creation, and that includes human beings. So there are angels who are assigned to watch over planets and peoples. And when I say peoples, I mean other beings besides humans, because angels really are everywhere. And they're around us all the time, whether we know it or not. And the choice is ours, whether or not we're going to engage with them.
So do they actually specifically pick us? Like, do we have particular angels that take care of us, or are they just random?
We do have guardian angels, but where the chicken and the egg is on that, I suspect that we have a lot to do with making choices at some point in our series of lives, or the place between lives. There are angels who are with us throughout our entire life. And then there are angels who come and go depending upon what we're going in life and what we're needing to call in for assistance. There are angels who act like teachers, who are able to transmit knowledge to us in various ways, usually through our studies, through inspiration and intuition. That's often how they work. And these relationships, I believe, exist over long periods of time, certainly longer than an ordinary lifetime.
So were angels previous humans that have kind of died and passed on, or are they just a total different entity?
I believe them to be different entities. And there are some, the Swedenborg, for example, was of the opinion that people could become angels after death. And I think that people can become angel-like. We have many cases where, for example, a parent or a grandparent passes on, and someone who's living may say, Grandpa's my guardian angel now. He's always around when I need some advice. Well, Grandpa has become like a guardian angel, but I do not believe that humans become angels. Ultimately, we all merge into the Godhead. So angels and humans and other beings alike, but they are distinctly different from us. They have communicated to me in the past that they're really walking a parallel path to us, and we might think of them as being mighty and exalted, but we have our own glory that we often don't recognize, and so they've told me that we're really treading parallel paths to God, and each with its own function and its own experiences and its own duties.
So now then I take with angels there would be the counter of a demon of some sort, and would they be the same sort of being but with just opposite intention?
I consider demons to be a very wide range and variety. In the ancient world, knew demons much differently than in the modern world, where we've kind of pigeonholed them under Satan and Christianity, which is only a fairly new wrinkle in history, relatively speaking. But demons are also intermediary beings. They're on a different vibrational level than angels, And some of them, the ancients knew them from benign to malevolent and evil. So they ran the full spectrum. They could be ambivalent, ambiguous, rather benign, maybe even friendly. They could be trickster. They could be bullies. They could be mischievous. They could be malevolent and just out-and-out terrorists. So demons really run the full gamut of range of activities that they engage with human beings. Most of our experiences with them are not very pleasant, and throughout history, they have been blamed for, various ills that have befallen human beings and animals and the landscape.
So now, can they take the same as possession, or I shouldn't say, the same form as a human being as well, and be around us just like angels?
They can shapeshift. There are many entities who are very good at shapeshifting and to suit a purpose. Angels will shapeshift into a human form when that's the most appropriate way to deal with someone, especially in a sudden crisis situation. And demonic entities can do that as well. Since a lot of them seem to like to terrify people, it would be more in their interest to take some hideous form rather than a friendly-looking form. But it all depends on how they want to inveigle themselves with human beings. If they're out to frighten, terrify, vampirize, take over, or just kind of insinuate themselves.
So now, are they able to contact us in our dreams as well, or us to contact them? Not that I guess we'd want to, but...
Well, they can, but with demonic interference, it usually does not come without something to trigger it. There are a lot of entities out there. I call them drive-by demons. This is a kind of a catchy term. They're entities out there looking for opportunities to make trouble. And so some of them, they're invited in. They're invited in either unwittingly or deliberately by people who want to engage with them. They might seize a vulnerability or a weakness, a person in tremendous emotional upheaval or maybe serious illness where their boundaries are not in very good shape. Substance abuse will create a lot of holes in the aura that may make it possible for an opportunistic entity to latch on. So they need to have some sort of something to latch onto. And many people will go through their entire lives without having any sort of significant dealings with or trouble from these kinds of entities, and other people will have serious problems.
So now you were talking. So now, is there a need to protect herself when we're dealing with dreams and different entities?
I think it's a good idea, Al, to pursue your spiritual protection all the time. And that can be best accomplished through a daily practice, especially meditation, and prayer being an adjunct to that. But the act of meditating, even for a few minutes a day, will strengthen your spiritual foundation, help you connect to the spiritual realm. And it's like going to the psychic gym. It really works out the aura, which is our natural buffer against all sorts of things that are detrimental to us. And so we benefit in that regard. When we have that kind of buffering, then it's part of our backdrop. It's second nature to us. So we don't need to go around with our guard up all the time. But if you are engaging in any sort of very deep spiritual work, even on the positive side, it's always a good idea to bolster up your protection so that if you do encounter anything negative, you're not going to be blindsided.
Well, how do you do that then? How would a person do that that's never done this before? Well,
let's take someone who's just a total beginner, and they're intrigued by all of these things, and I was in the same position myself at one point in my life. Well, it's a good idea to start reading and studying. Pick a topic where you're really drawn, that's of an intense interest to you, and do some study. Take courses, classes, seminars, workshops. find a teacher to study with. And since so much spiritual work involves the psychic faculty, it's a good idea to get some sort of at least rudimentary psychic training. Everybody has psychic ability. We're born with it. Some people are born with an exceptional degree of it, and other people a lesser extent, but everyone can improve what they've got. So taking courses in psychic development or intuitive development, it's really the same thing, just usually for different purposes, but you're going to use the same techniques. And even energy healing. I've often recommended to people to just take some introductory energy healing, because that will give you a lot of training and structure in how the energy field feels to you, how you can experience it, and how learning how to open up your psychic faculty, evaluate information, improve your accuracy, and then being able to close down your boundaries so that you don't leave your doors and windows open all the time, so to speak. And this takes a while. This is not something that's going to be accomplished in a day or two or a weekend. You have to put some time in on it. But while you're doing that, you can still be doing spiritual work, and it's very rewarding. And that way, you're very protected. You're protected against negative people. There are plenty of people who go around in a horrible cloud of energy, and you're not going to be impacted by that, by the negative thoughts that get projected out from other people. Sometimes that's more of a problem than any non-human entities out there. And if you are doing work in the spiritual planes, then you will be, better prepared for encountering all kinds of things out there. Anytime you open the door to the spirit world, there is the potential to encounter something dark as well as light, even if you set your intention on, for example, wanting to work with angels. At some point, there may be contact with an entity who's curious about you, or maybe even doesn't like what you're doing. And it's just about being prepared as a spiritual warrior.
Is there a particular religious component to it? Like, do you have to practice a certain religion, or can it be no religion at all?
Most people who go deeply onto these paths do have some sort of spiritual foundation, even if they don't call themselves religious. And I do hear that a lot, where people would describe themselves as deeply spiritual but not necessarily religious. That is, the dogma of various religious organizations doesn't appeal to them. But it's difficult to go into these areas without some sort of spiritual underpinning and belief. And if you start out thinking that you're going to be agnostic about it, you'll wind up being changed over the course of time, because the great mystery is at the center of everything. It doesn't matter whether you start out ghost hunting or you start out studying with a yogi. All paths lead to the great mystery if you stay on them long enough and go deep enough. And so that's going to shape your spiritual belief. But is one religion better than another? No, not really. I just encourage people to find their spiritual center, whatever it is. And that may even change over the course of life. Many people find that they want to expand their boundaries, that they start out, with the faith that they grew up in and were taught when they were young. But as they get older, they realize that other religions and other spiritual paths have a lot to offer as well. And so they expand their boundaries. And that's pretty much what happened to me, is that, I was raised a Methodist, very, middle of the road. From a very early age, I was convinced of reincarnation. And I studied a lot of the Eastern traditions. I was practicing Zen Buddhism for a good number of years. And because of the nature of my work, I have sought to be educated, at least with working knowledge, in as many traditions as possible. And I have respect for them all. as I mentioned earlier, the metaphysical and mystical principles underneath all of them are very similar. We're all headed toward the same place.
And so you mentioned reincarnation. So are we bound to come back in another life?
I do believe in reincarnation, and that it probably takes many forms, some of which we might not even be able to comprehend very well. There are many teachings about reincarnation since ancient times, and I think all of them hold at least some of the truth, but probably none of them hold the whole truth because we're still exploring that mystery. And my own feeling is that we are not limited to any one planet or any one life form, and that taking another life form is not punishment. It's simply an expansion of the multidimensional soul. In ancient times, there were a lot of teachings that if you came back as an animal, it meant you'd done something wrong. I don't necessarily see it that way. I'm also not convinced that there is a progression. For example, in Theosophy, they talk about progressing up from, rock and mineral consciousness up to human. We may not be in that sort of progression. We may bounce around. If we are having multiple life experiences in many different dimensions simultaneously, which I do believe we are, they could be all over the place in terms of the forms that they're taking. I have encountered many individuals who have gone into past life recall thinking they might explore a human life and discover that they've connected with something that's a fairy, a tree, a rock, a bird, an animal, or even something not of this world, a being from another world system. So if we exist in an infinite, among infinite possibilities throughout eternity, it makes absolutely no sense that we would spend all of our lifetimes on a single place in a single life form. So we can have lots of lives in one place, but I think we go beyond that.
Right. Or do you think we're selecting these lives that we go through for some sort of lesson, or?
I believe that we have a great deal of choice in the matter. And communications, mediumistic communications, if you study the afterlife literature, what the dead have to say about the afterlife, they indicate that there is a great deal of choice. And that, yes, there are things that we must do, in a compensatory way to balance things out here and there along the way. So we may have to do some things, but I think we have a great deal of choice in terms of how we're going to go about it. There are indications from the past life recall literature of people reincarnating very fast. And usually it's after an unexpected violent death, and they come back very quickly. And some of these individuals in other cultures have amazing recall of their previous lives. They know names, places, dates, what they were doing. They might even have scars on their body where they received their death wounds. And whether or not these people just kind of boomeranged back too fast or made the decision to come back fast is open to interpretation.
So do you think these past lives, so if I was in a past life and I was killed quickly and someone drowned me and murdered me, do you think that plays an effect in my new life?
It might. And things don't necessarily play out, I think, immediately in a lifetime. It might not play out for several more lifetimes. But for example, let's say that you drowned in a previous life. In the present life, you might have a terrible fear of water, unexplained. And it wouldn't make sense to you until you went through a regression and you reconnected with the life where you drowned. Many phobias have been successfully treated through past life recall. There's another whole body of literature concerning the Holocaust victims who have reincarnated, and they've had vivid memories of World War II, and also fears and phobias attached to the traumas that were experienced back then. that makes sense in once they make the connection through past lives. But it might also be possible that fear of water might not show up in this life, but maybe in a future life.
So, and also, I mean, I guess if you have a fear, like I had a terrible fear of heights and flying and all of that in my early life, but it just disappeared. It's strange because I can't really explain why.
Well, it may be something that just naturally worked itself out. And, of course, we have to take into consideration things that we're exposed to when we're very young, very early memories that we might not be able to recall except under hypnosis or regression, for example. There could be a number of things contributing to phobias and fears.
So you've been doing past life regressions, right? How does that work?
I do them in group settings and also one-on-one with individuals. And I am a certified hypnotist, and I don't treat anything else. I got the certification mainly so I could regress people about their experiences, past lives, and also their contact experiences. And it involves putting someone into a very light state of hypnosis. I do not do deep trance work. Some people hypnotize very easily and some people do not. But you get people into a lightly altered state of consciousness where they can follow a certain amount of guidance, and then you let them take over with their own experience. You take them very deep and then ask them, if they're exploring a particular life, to step out and describe their surroundings, and then you move them forward through that life, meaningful scenes, encounters, whatever it is that they're wishing to connect with. People sometimes just want to do a general exploration, like I think I lived in the 1500s, and so maybe I can connect with that life. That's a general exploration. Some people want to know specifically. I think I was a doctor in the past. I must have been a doctor in many lifetimes. I'd like to find one of those lifetimes, so that's a little more specific. Or they have a relationship they want to explore, people that they feel they've been involved with in the past, and so they want to look at those lifetimes. Or issues, and that could be phobia related. So then the direction of the regression depends on what the purpose is, and the individual is asked to describe what they are experiencing and seeing, and then there's a processing when you come out of that, so that they can integrate the material and put it into context that is meaningful to them.
So who do you suggest would be a good candidate, or what do you think you'd get out of doing a past life regression?
Most people can undergo hypnosis and probably would get something out of it, even if it's just a matter of curiosity for them. And as I mentioned, some individuals don't hypnotize very well, and some people do, and sometimes until you try it, you really don't know. So if you're curious about living before and wanted to explore that, that's a very simple thing to do. And sometimes people might feel better doing it in a group situation where they've got lots of people around them. The group regression is where the group goes back to a particular time period or explores something in particular, and then there's lots of group discussion. That's a very good environment for getting started.
And when we just a while ago we were talking with Robert Wagner, who was writing about lucid dreaming. How do you feel about lucid dreaming?
It's an amazing ability that humans have, and I love Robert Wagner's work. He's one of the leading authorities in the field and a very prolific lucid dreamer. The scientists who study lucid dreaming estimate that it involves creative and healing abilities that are emerging in human beings, and that if more of us could harness the ability to lucid dream, we might have some leaps and bounds in the development of our consciousness. But this is being aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming, and most people are going to have a lucid dream at some point in life, and it's going to be very short, because for many people, as soon as they realize that they're awake in a dream, the lucidity ends, and they might be able to, one of the first things people do is, I'm in a dream, I can do whatever I want, and so they fly or levitate, and the lucidity ends rather quickly. But other people are very prolific lucid dreamers. They have frequent lucid dreams. I know individuals who every dream is lucid, and they have prolonged periods of lucidity and a very heightened degree of management. They can control dreams and the action in dreams for extended periods. So there are a lot of techniques, again, for managing your dreams and for teaching yourself lucidity, or at least extending or enhancing the periods of lucidity in dreams. There are even sleep masks you can wear that alert you to stages of sleep that are likely to involve lucid dreaming. And individuals have varying degrees of success with this. And I think it just all depends on the individual. But the indications are that lucid dreaming does hold a lot of potential, because if the dreamscape is a legitimate alternate reality, which it is, it's an extension of waking consciousness, and you can do different things in the dream state, then could we magnify our creativity? Could we magnify our ability to heal? Could we manage time? Could we change time? Even we live in linear time, which doesn't exist in these other realities. So could we profoundly change reality by having more lucid dreaming? And how fast it's going to take us collectively to realize some of these things is unknown, but I think some of the most exciting dream research is being done in the field of lucidity.
And have you had anything to do with remote viewing?
Well, remote viewing can be done in the dream state. It's a modern term that is kind of like clairvoyance. It's not technically the same as clairvoyance, but it's far-seeing, and that's exactly what clairvoyance is. And so could you remote view the future? Well, that's a precognitive dream. You can set an intention to remote view or clairvoyantly look at or preview, pick your term, an event in the future. And lucid dreamers can do this. They will ask to see the outcome of an event, or the probable outcome of an event. If I do this, what will be the probable outcome? And ask the lucid dreaming mind to preview that. Now, the future really is a probable outcome based on present forces in motion, and those probable outcomes change according to decisions we make, actions that are taken. The probable futures can change moment to moment. So lucidity could be a very valuable tool for previewing possible outcomes of situations.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. We talked with Lyle Buchanan as well, and he did the controlled remote viewing, and he was part of the government agency that was trying to remote view things for the government secretly. And I found that quite interesting to be able to do that.
Yes, and Lynn Buchanan is one of the premier remote viewers, and the government did, and probably still does, I'm not sure, have people trained in remote viewing for the purposes of surveillance and intelligence gathering. But the average person can use remote viewing just for personal purposes. And just think how much reality would change if we could manage time or step outside of time, manipulate time, or change time altogether? And what if our reality was a more extended reality that blended waking consciousness with dreaming consciousness with psychic visioning? We would be profoundly different beings. We would probably even have different forms.
Where do you see the future going then with dreams and the whole thing, lucidity and everything? Where do you see people going with this?
It depends on how we manage ourselves, because the collective is only as good as the individual input. So individuals really have to put some work into it. And if more of us individually pay attention to our dreams and to cultivating them in the highest possible way for healing, for creativity, for insight, and spiritual growth, that enhances the collective. And I do believe in... well, for example, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi said years ago that if enough people, and he had a formula, if enough people in an area would join together and do transcendental meditation simultaneously, it would affect the physical environment. And they ran some experiments where large numbers of people meditated, which is going into a very profound altered state. And there were correlating changes in crime rate, bad weather, accidents, some things that could be looked at reasonably well statistically. It was not a scientific study by any means. But it does demonstrate that when people join their conscious minds together, profound shifts in reality take place. But these things do not happen if we don't do it, if we don't put the energy into it. And so how fast it's going to happen depends on how fast we keep our act together.
Yeah, that's a tough one in the world today.
Well, it is, with people being distracted by so much chaos and upheaval and just trying to keep a roof over their heads.
Yeah, there's a lot of stress right now. Do you see that getting any better, or is that just something that's going to always go on?
The way our history has played out, we've always had chaos. And we've had periods of relative peace and enlightenment and periods of great world distress. And at the present stage of our consciousness, this is going to continue. And how and when all that can shift depends on us making some major evolutionary leap in consciousness. Mystics who've pondered this question see it happening very far off in the future. But we have global mind now, thanks to the internet and cellular technology and high technology computers. So this enables us to make bigger shifts, even exponentially, and that could quicken things up quite a bit.
Tell people how they can get a hold of you and about your website.
My website is visionaryliving.com, and I have a library of articles on there. My newsletter links are posted. I have a free monthly newsletter that comes out every month. You can sign up for it there. And a calendar of my upcoming events. I will be out in the Northwest this summer in July. I will be presenting at East West Books in Seattle and Vision Quest in Everett.
Wow. Beautiful time of year to come out.
It certainly is. I grew up in Seattle, and I love the city, and summer is definitely the best time to be there.
It certainly is. Well, I really appreciate you coming by and taking the time to chat with us a while about dreams and angels.
Well, you're very welcome, Al. Thank you so much. It's been a very interesting conversation with you.
Show is over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of the Z-Talk Radio Network.
I'll be back.